There we go. Okay, cool. Let's jump in here then. So there's my notes. Cool. Yeah, thank you for taking the time and maybe 7 extra minutes out of your day today for Facebook not working. But
Okay.
yeah, let's jump in. So maybe can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, your background a bit, and we'll go from there.
My name's Marina. I'm pretty good at powerlifting. Like, I guess I started February, and before that, I was like just doing my own thing. I was basically just looking at TikTok for my workouts, and I was training for the wrong things. Like, considering I wanted to be a powerlifter, but I knew pretty much nothing about it. I was just like following, hey, do these bicep curls, like lateral raises, and then when I switched to like actually powerlifting training, it was so much different, but it was like cool because it was specialized literally to bench squat and deadlift. And since I've like improved really fast in my lifts.
Yeah, things have gone pretty well. I will say I remember when we first started and I was going through kind of the workouts you've been doing. I was like, all right, cool. Let's get to work. Let's get kind of a bit more specificity into the program. And yeah, so it's been really good to see where your lifts have gone from there. So the main issue you were basically having is you just felt like you didn't have enough direction to get started with powerlifting in the first place. You felt like you were just kind of all over the map with your training, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there was a couple things that we found initially when we started with training, particularly in your deadlift technique and just overall in your bracing, that we ended up really needing to work on to clean things up and just be proactive with not having injuries develop down the road. And so pretty good focus on the breathing and the bracing to develop that, and a couple shifts in I don't want to say past beliefs, but preconceived notions on what those should feel like and how to leverage certain things with your build to help a lot, particularly for you with focusing on where we get flexion in your spine in the deadlift. Like really focusing into that upper back was pretty impactful, I'd say, with your deadlift, right? And
it was like even a thing before, because everyone would always tell me like, you need to have like the flattest back in the world or else you're gonna break it in half. And people actually still tell me that, but I know that's not true.
Yeah. There's, like with many things, the answer lies in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So after working together for about 4 months, right? You'd gotten your first competition in around the 3.5 month mark. Your strength, I've just gotten my notes here that, so when we started, your maxes were around on your squat, 225 or so, and you're up to about a 255 squat. Now that lift has really blown up. You're
higher, honestly.
Yeah, the squat is moving. The squat is totally moving, which I'm really happy to see.
Out of absolutely nowhere, I was stuck at 225 for like 2.5 months, and then it just went like up like 40 pounds almost.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and it's still moving too, which I'm really happy with as well. And technique is better. Yeah.
No,
and then
like,
bench.
Weird imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and bench. Was at like 155, which I'd only ever done once when I started, and then I moved up to a really easy 170, like really easy. I'm surprised I didn't try 175. That was like a month ago, and then I had surgery, so I'm still trying to climb back up, but it has definitely moved.
And then deadlift
changed a lot.
Deadlift has changed a bit. Like you're up 15 pounds or so. You were at 275 or so when we started, and up to 290 now. So closing in on 300 club.
Deadlift is probably my hardest, actually, but I'm really happy with the improvement in all the lifts, especially considering like my deadlift completely changed out of everything else. I think, considering how much changed, I'm not like mad at that progress at all.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in 3 months, adding that much to your total and improving technique at the same time. Like I think that's some pretty good increases in the lifts. taking into account time frame and technique changes as well, right? Yeah. So what were some of the big lessons that you learned along the way with like over these past 4 months? And obviously we're moving forward past that, but in these last 4 months, what were some of the big, revelations that you experienced with the training?
So one thing I'm still like learning is that like failure is not a bad thing. Like sometimes I still feel weak. Like I missed 155 the other day, which I was like so mad at myself about. But then like a few days later, I hit a 160 pause bench like so easily. I probably could have done my max at a pause bench that day. So like you're gonna have some days where you're gonna feel like so weak, but in reality, you're probably just like recovering. Like your muscles are probably recovering and you're stronger than you think. And also consistency is like key because I noticed after like 2 weeks of just like not doing anything because of surgery, like I feel a lot weaker. But when I was really consistent, I was like consistently seeing like pretty, very consistent progress. So your progress is going to be as consistent as you are in training.
Yeah, 100%. And that's consistency, showing up for the quote unquote bad days just as much as you show up for the good ones too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, one other thing to note as well with your training that you mentioned is, having days where, 155, it's not there. And then the next day you're benching, you could have benched your max for a pause. With the programming style that we use for you, we've gone with a fairly aggressive approach, just given that, we had the meet planned out, and on the lifts where technique was pretty good, we could push it pretty far. And you'd honestly tend to respond really well to a more intensity focused approach. Just with managing fatigue with everything else, if we go really high volume, it tends to be a little bit detrimental for you.
Yeah. My weightlifting class doesn't help much in that regard.
No, not quite.
Me a lot of what I was doing before, like, because that's exactly what I used to do. And there's just so many exercises and like just a lot of the cool stuff like isolation. And like it's way different, but I feel like more intensity.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's say somebody else was in a similar situation to you, where they, no stranger to the gym necessarily, but had never really had a structured program and were looking to get into powerlifting. What kind of advice would you give them?
Literally just get a coach, honestly. Like I wouldn't have known any like sort of, I wouldn't know how to train for powerlifting. And the only way you can powerlift is if you train for powerlifting, not by doing these random exercises you see on the internet. Like they probably know what they're doing, but chances are they don't have the same goals as you. And plus everyone's like completely different and no one knows you better than your coach. So with a degree and like you do. So they know it better than anybody else on the internet. So that's my advice.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it just boils down to that idea, and you can't know what you don't know. So if you're making a mistake, but you don't even know that's happening, you'll never learn from that either, right?
Yeah, that's why I literally post everything, because I remember I was posting like an overhead press and I was just posting it to post it. And then you told me that I had the technique like pretty much really wrong and I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then when I posted it, it felt so much different.
Yeah. And way more stable and stronger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I can push way more than I used to.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the goal with powerlifting in the first place. Just keep those numbers going up and do it safely, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Anything else you'd want to add to that? Any final thoughts?
I guess just like stick with your program, and even if you don't know why you're doing something, which is what I was struggling with in the beginning, because I didn't do any mobility work. Like I didn't stretch, I didn't warm up, I didn't do anything. So like doing all the mobility work at first, I was really confused as to why I was doing it. But as you like progress, you see why you're doing it, because you notice that like your bench feels more stable and your deadlift like feels cleaner, and like your squats just better, like your technique's better. So mobility work, like don't skip that, if that makes sense. Like even like the little things that you're like, if I didn't do this, it would be fine. No, like the small steps like end up getting you all the way up the stairs. So I would definitely not skip mobility, or don't like not do your warm-ups or anything.
Yeah,
So just
yeah,
as
like you
help.
said, just have that incremental process that you build up with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. If so, if you're watching this and you've had a similar situation where you feel like you're interested in getting into powerlifting or doing your first competition and wondering how to start, get in touch with me. Send me a quick DM on Facebook or an email to matt@strongerupt.com. And I'd love to chat and see if my team and I can help. And yeah, thanks again, Marina. Appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.